Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. After ignoring the recommendation for some time, I finally joined some of my friends to the cinema and watched Dune Part 1. I have not read the book, and although I had a friend with me who did many years ago, his memory wasn't the clearest on many parts. Thus my judgment on this film is not informed by the book, nor the David Lynch film, which I have not seen. Before I go into what I liked and what I disliked, I'll talk about some questions I had watching the film, but I'll do my best not to spoil the narrative. This isn't a spoiler, but handguns and firearms are rarely seen or used in the film. Instead, swords are used. But, because this is science fiction, to kill an opponent, you have to strike with enough force to cut through his energy shield, and then find a chink in his body armor to apply your blade. Now, although this is shown in the film, it isn't explained, and there is no scene detailing why firearms are no longer used by soldiers. I have been told there is an explanation in the book. However, this isn't really where I have my questions, because accepting the premise is easy enough. But it raises the question of why other weapons are not used in the film. Only swords and daggers are used by fighters in the film, and these blades are quite short. No one uses halberds, pikes, maces, axes, or physical shields, even though these should all be useful in a universe where no one uses firearms. I assume here the book has some explanation, but the film never addresses these questions in any way. This is a big weakness of the film. Although it is essentially set up for a future part 2, its exposition is honestly not the greatest. And while I had a friend who could explain a few things for me, your casual audience member is going to be in the dark about many aspects of the universe, such as the importance of the Navigation Guild, the political state of the Empire, how exactly spice is used for interstellar travel, etc. Nevertheless, the exposition, which exists in the film, does cover all the bases for the plot. I was never confused about what was happening in the narrative, and character motivations and events tie together nicely. You may still have questions about the world by the end of the film, but you will have no difficulty recollecting what happened in the story, and what it means for the main character. But it's not the incomplete story which makes the film worth viewing on the big screen, but instead the production value and the visual spectacle. The acting, the props, the costumes, the designs, the special effects, the visual effects, and the cinematography are all great. Parts of the film which would be boring are made engaging with hundreds of extras and panning shots of the environment. The majority of scenes in the film are designed to be as epic and as grand as possible, and it works fabulously. If you want to view cinematic grandness, you can't do better than Dune at this moment. There are only 3 criticisms I have on this front. The first is the colour palette. The costumes, spaceships, etc. are all well designed and memorable, but everything is grey and dark. This changes a bit when the film moves to Arrakis, because the desert colours and the lighting are brighter, but the film has muted colours, and isn't bright or especially colourful. I may be speaking for myself here, but I am tired of such muted colours, and I want to see more colour in modern films. The second is the fighting. The battles in the film are excellent. The scenes where battalions of soldiers are engaged in melee combat are brilliant. It's hard to tell what is going on in these scenes, and what I mean is that you cannot tell what each individual is doing precisely, a bit like a piranha feeding frenzy, and it suits the film perfectly. This is not a criticism. But the scenes where individuals are fighting, well, the choreography is just lacking. It's not bad per se, but it isn't the best. The third is the music. The music is good in a lot of areas and is certainly functional. But, alas, Hans Zimmer, after discovering in the film Inception that he could use synthetic bass, electronic sounds, and heavy brass to go boom and broom over every scene, has decided that all his films should sound like Inception. At times it's appropriate in the story, but I felt that Zimmer was using it as a crutch for scenes where he wanted the audience to feel that something epic or important was taking place. With all this said, if you want to see a visually impressive film at the cinema, Dune is the film for you. It is a dazzling, entertaining, and great cinematic experience. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all have an excellent day. Some of you may be wondering why I didn't mention the casting choices which were motivated by political correctness and by internal Hollywood diversity requirements which contradict the source material. This film is particularly egregious in this regard, as they swapped the race and gender of a central character. So why no lampoons? To be brief, because everyone knew this would happen, and bringing out the same old arguments against these decisions won't persuade Hollywood to stop doing it. They don't care. As well, I'm tired of discussing the ideological inclinations of the film industry. I, and many others, have already covered this ground. If you are opposed to these types of decisions, you only have 3 options. A. Boycott all media which engage in these practices. B. Learn to accept these practices. And C. Learn to tolerate these practices. Personally, I have been opting for option A more often than not recently, and that is why I was so slow to see this film.